Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. We have a busy show in store. We've got a clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano that you're not going to want to miss. It's different from yesterday. Yesterday we had an audio clip. Today we have a clip at a hearing that is in regards to our friends in corrections. So that is coming up a little bit later on in the program. We're also going to hear, and I'm sure I'll probably get a text from Climate Fact Friday Bob, but we're going to hear about a climate teach-in at Elmira College coming up. That's a little bit later on in this hour. First, and some updates, not updates, but some more discussion on the State of the Union. Also, a couple breaking stories. But first, some comments from viewers that came in after yesterday's program. Sometimes when we have a guest like we did yesterday with Sheriff Allard, which, by the way, if you missed that was a great interview. You can find it up on our YouTube page or at WYDCTV.com. But what a interview. Well, sometimes I run late and don't get to all of the comments. Ken writes in, Hochul is either clueless or doesn't care about the damage she is causing by doing and saying what her handlers tell her to do and say. And her handlers know that their anonymity protects them from any blowback on the problems that they have Hochul cause. Bottom line is, they didn't bring in millions of illegal immigrants to have them deported. A few people hurt is a small price to pay for keeping new Democrat voters here. Thank you, Ken. Comment from a different viewer. Great show, man. I like that. That was in reference to Sheriff Allard and myself. Now many of us have a better idea about Bruce Blakeman, gubernatorial candidate, and his lieutenant governor pick. I'm more on board now, as I've been wondering why Stefanik dropped out. Well, Elise Stefanik, I know that's still frustrating. Elise Stefanik actually had great pictures. I saw them on Facebook the other day of her with the gold medalist from the U.S. men's hockey team. I know. A lot of people still disappointed. I get it. Okay. Some breaking news from yesterday. 4 passengers of a Florida-registered speedboat were killed by Cuban border guards We learned that they were all, the 4 passengers, born in the communist island nation but lived in the U.S., according to the Cuban embassy. Cuba's Interior Ministry claimed the country's law enforcement opened fire on the boat after it entered their waters for an, quote, armed infiltration attempt. The vessel was carrying a total of 10, quote, armed, and remember, this is coming from the Cuban embassy, people who Cuban officials claim intended to carry out an infiltration for terrorist purposes. The Interior Ministry alleged assault rifles, handguns, Molotov cocktails, and other weapons were found on board the speedboat. 4 of the passengers were gunned down by Cuban border troopers in a shootout. The 6 injured survivors were each identified. I'm not going to go through each of their names. So I know that Marco Rubio, I don't know if it's quoted here, but vowed to make sure, oh, here it is. We'll continue to go. An official told the New York Times that the people on the incoming vessel, a 24-foot power boat manufactured in 1981, were working to get relatives out of Cuba. When asked for comment about the citizenship of those aboard the speedboat, the State Department referred to earlier comments made by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Rubio had vowed that the U.S. would, quote, find out exactly what happened and respond accordingly. He downplayed Cuba's initial version of the attack, saying the U.S. would find its own information on this. We're not going to base our conclusions on what they told us. He conceded it is highly unusual to see shootouts in the open sea like that. That's not something that happens every day. So that we'll keep you updated on. This is an ongoing breaking story. Also, a convoy, we're continuing with international, a convoy believed to be carrying Iranian diplomats arrived yesterday at the Omani residence in Geneva for indirect nuclear talks with the United States. An Associated Press journalist saw the convoy drive into the residence. An earlier convoy was believed to be carrying the American negotiators. Iran and the U.S. are meeting in Geneva for nuclear negotiations, talks viewed as a last chance for diplomacy as America has gathered a fleet of aircrafts and warships to the Middle East to pressure Tehran into a deal. President Donald Trump wants a deal to constrain Iran's nuclear program, and he sees an opportunity while the country is struggling at home with growing dissent following nationwide protests last month. Now, I would love to hear your opinion on this because we did say that we would stand with the protesters. As of right now, negotiations are still ongoing. It is being reported the Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei is living in an underground bunker where officials are blindfolded before they even have meetings. Opposition outlets say the Iranian leader is staying in a specially secured underground bunker complex in Tehran made up of tunnels amid assessments by military and security officials of a possible U.S. attack. Now, citing a member of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and others, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council and reportedly appointed by Khamenei as a de facto manager of state affairs, was blindfolded when taken to meet the Supreme Leader before traveling to Oman for talks with the U.S. The report could not clearly be independently verified. Now, Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, was on the broadcast On Balance yesterday. And he said that President Trump, quote, has made it clear to the Iranians, you're not going to have a nuclear weapon. You're not going to enrich uranium. You've got to stop murdering your people. And he doesn't think you can separate, this is very important, and he doesn't think you can separate Iran's nuclear program from the need for the regime to leave. And I know J.D. Vance said it as well, and Huckabee saying it here, the president made it very clear in his State of the Union where he stood on Iran. If we're going to have a peaceful plan, said Huckabee, the president would love a peaceful plan. And he has made it clear to the Iranians, you're not going to have a nuclear weapon. You're not going to enrich uranium. You've got to stop murdering your people. Estimates between 30 and 60,000 of them have been murdered because they protested this evil regime. I don't think you can separate it, meaning Iran's nuclear program, from the regime. I think you can't separate them because, quite frankly, and I would say this, why do they want a nuclear weapon? What would they do with it? They would use it. And Mike Huckabee, obviously on the ground as U.S. Ambassador to Israel. Sorry, I have something in my eye this morning. So knowing exactly what he's talking about, Senator Lindsey Graham said over the past few weeks there has been great speculation regarding the growing unrest in Iran and what action, if any, the United States will take in response. One fact that remains clear is that the Iranian regime finds itself at its weakest point since 1979. As such, the world has reached a pivotal crossroad, one that will define the course of history for generations. Now, Lindsey Graham goes through kind of each point, October 7th, the brutal murder of the protesters, of the people rising up in the streets. The next question, arguably most important, is where do we go from here? President Trump has two lines in the water, a diplomatic line and a military line. While diplomatic negotiations are always worth pursuing within reason, my ultimate hope is that regime change will be achieved. This will come about in one of two ways. Either the current regime changes its ways, which I find unlikely, or the Iranian people will take over once the regime falls. To those who resist regime change, why do you wish to see this regime continue as it is? And that's the talking point of many in the media. I see Stephen Collinson at CNN saying Trump risks walking into an Iraq-style trap in Iran, trying to discourage the president from pursuing a regime change. And I think Lindsey Graham asks a fair question. Why do you wish to see this regime continue as it is? The Ayatollah and his henchmen slaughter people for protesting. They beat young women to death for wearing their headscarves improperly. And they've overseen the largest state sponsor of terrorism for decades. Who wants that to continue? I certainly don't, nor do the Iranian people. The people are the ones demanding regime change, and we should stand behind them. When asked by the world media what the protesters in Iran should do, President Trump boldly said, keep protesting. Help is on the way. I believe that to be the correct statement, and it will be historical in nature if the regime collapses. Trump's support for the protesters, in conjunction with America's display of strength in Operation Midnight Hammer, has created the largest opportunity for peace and prosperity in the Mideast in over 1,000 years. If the regime is replaced, normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel becomes possible again. The people of Iran will chart their own destiny, and terrorist networks across the region, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, will atrophy even further. Fancy, Lindsey Graham. My trip last week to Israel, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, three states facing threats from Iran and its proxies, reaffirmed to me that each of these possibilities are not only obtainable, but would be extremely beneficial to the U.S. and our allies. On the other hand, we must remember who will be forced to reconcile with if the regime holds. At the helm is the Ayatollah, a religious zealot who orchestrated an assassination attempt on President Trump's life. When he chants death to America and death to all the Jews, he means what he says. If the Ayatollah remains in charge after all this bluster, I fear the problems that will arise will haunt the region for decades and America even further. With the fate of millions at stake, let me try that again. Again, this is Senator Lindsey Graham, and I think it's a powerful message. With the fate of millions at stake, I'm praying for President Trump as he makes one of the most consequential decisions any president can make. I know President Trump to be a man of his word. He is reluctant to get engaged in wars with no end, yet unafraid to use force. It is my strong view that history is watching every move we make. If we follow through by sending help to the protesters, risking their lives, we will have a 21st century Berlin Wall moment. Ronald Reagan's determination to stand up to communism paid dividends for the entire world when the Soviet Union crumbled under its own weight. What followed was a new birth of freedom around the globe, liberating millions who knew nothing but oppression. If the Ayatollah falls, it will set in motion a similar sequence of events across the Middle East. All the terrorist proxies will be left hanging, the Abraham Accords will expand exponentially, the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel will be back on the front burner, and the Iranian people will come to know that all human beings desire what they desire most, freedom. The ripple effects of this regime's destruction will bring forth tremendous positive change across the region that will echo across the world. Only time will tell what will happen next. For now, we must be smart and we must be bold. That is Senator Lindsey Graham. And as I mentioned, Stephen Collinson saying that Trump risks walking into an Iraq-style trap in Iran. He could become the president who ousted the Ayatollahs, a feat that eluded Jimmy Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush again, well, George W., Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. That would be some legacy for Commander-in-Chief desperate for a place in history. We got a couple other breaking stories. We're going to talk about the coverage of the State of the Union. It's been fascinating to see, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but because Hakeem Jeffries was relatively silent and not heckling at the State of the Union, Stephen Colbert was critical of him and went on his broadcast to criticize Hakeem Jeffries for not being vocal. That is the new standard. They want the Ilhan Omars in the Democrat Party. They want the Rashida Tlaibs to shout and heckle the whole time. Rashida Tlaib's in a little bit of trouble for some of the things that she yelled. But again, the silence is violence idea that we thought had kind of died a while ago, that theory from the left that if you aren't, I didn't want to say that we thought it died. I thought it was kind of really down low, not really one of their priorities. Now I guess that's back at the forefront, where silence is violence, meaning if you don't yell, if you don't scream, if you don't shout, you are complicit and in some way supportive of Trump. We'll talk about that as well. A couple updates on the U.S. men's hockey team as well, because heaven forbid you celebrate this country. So we'll talk about that and much more. Keep your waves, keep your comments coming in. We're just getting warmed up. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
It's the Jeep Wednesday sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Good meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So J.D. Vance and Dr. Oz made a dramatic move by withholding, this came out late yesterday, $259.5 million in Minnesota Medicaid funds. This is their first, if you will, battle in the war on fraud. And during the State of the Union, of course, President Trump said that J.D. Vance would be in charge of this war on fraud. $259.5 million in Medicaid funds from Minnesota won't be reimbursed due to fraud concerns, giving Democrat Governor Tim Walz 60 days to submit a corrective action plan or face further withholdings. Vance was joined by Dr. Oz to make the announcement. This was, again, one day after President Trump said that Vance is now in charge of the war on fraud, and he's not going to be like the border czar, Kamala Harris. He's hitting the ground running. The men also announced a national pause on firms that can seek subsidies through Medicare for durable medical equipment like canes and walkers. Vance saying, "We are going to start very aggressively in the administration, cracking down on the people and the organizations that are defrauding Americans." Oz said Governor Tim Walz has 60 days, sir, to respond to our letter if he wants repayment, which Oz said will require the state to propose and act on a comprehensive corrective action plan to solve the problem. If Minnesota fails to clean up the system, the state will rack up $1 billion of deferred payments this year. Now, the unprecedented withholding impacts nearly half of what the federal government is supposed to pay the state for the low-income Medicaid program in the past fiscal quarter. The deferment focuses on 14 programs identified as having a high risk of fraud, including autism care, at-home rehabilitation, non-emergency medical transports, and night supervisions. The federal government is obligated to reimburse 50% of Minnesota's Medicaid costs, and it's unclear if the state government will litigate to try to regain the funds or if it will submit to the requested corrective plan. Vance said, "One of the examples of fraud that we've seen in Minnesota that we verified that is just awful is the program that existed to ensure that autistic children had access to some after-school services. The scam has made a number of people rich, not by providing services to needy children, but by allowing fraudsters to take money that ought to, by right, go to American citizens. Far too many people have gotten rich by taking what is the best of the American spirit and getting rich off of it instead of providing services to kids who need it." So that's a step and a start, if you will, in the battle with the war on fraud. $259.5 million withheld from Minnesota. Okay, I wanted to mention that in a breaking story. Okay, couple quick things. We're going to talk about the men's hockey team. I've got a couple updates on a story that we've been bringing to you a lot lately, and there's a really we'll talk about. Yeah, let's go through this. I don't want to keep highlighting what we will talk about. Let's talk about it. While most Americans, like you and I, were delighted that the USA's men's hockey team was triumphant, the Huffington Post again found it sad. We had the Huffington Post saying before, we understand if it makes you uncomfortable that people are so patriotic and proud of their country. The Huffington Post began by talking about the historic nature of Team USA's win, the first Olympic gold medal in men's hockey since 1980. However, they lamented that the, quote, hero's welcome the team should have received was ruined by the phone call with President Trump after the win. Considering that this is the first time in 46 years the men's team has won gold at the global sporting event, one would assume they'd receive a hero's welcome. But thanks to a gross exchange that the team had with President Trump after the big win, they got more of a zero's welcome. The article then details the sporadic praise and shouts of USA the team received from onlookers upon arriving at Miami's airport. First, it's odd that the Huffington Post describes the reception as lukewarm, given that no welcoming party was planned at the airport, so it was just random people celebrating our win. The article completely omits mention of the water cannon salute the team's plane received on the tarmac, which is actually a welcoming gesture literally reserved for heroes, and the large number of people that were there to greet the team. But then, even more bizarrely, the article takes the ludicrous leap of attributing what it perceives to be the underwhelming reception to Trump's phone call, saying the congratulatory phone call the president made to the team was caught on video and has sparked outrage. In it, FBI Director Kash Patel, who is facing backlash of his own for slamming beers with the men's hockey team on a reportedly taxpayer-funded trip to Italy, holds a phone as Trump talks to the team on speaker. After Trump invited the men to the White House to celebrate their win and even offered the team a military aircraft to fly them out to the State of the Union address. And I must tell you, the president said, we're going to have to bring the women's team, which the men's hockey team erupted with laughter. The U.S. women's hockey team also won at the Winter Olympics, but after the video of Trump's degrading call went viral on social media, they decided to decline the president's White House offer. Okay. If that's the direction you want to go, there's also a ESPN radio host, the Ebro Laura Rosenberg show. Peter Rosenberg uploaded a live reaction video arguing that the gold medal winning hockey team was being used as props. This host is not the only one that has said it. I know that Michael Ian Black, the comedian, said that they were being used as pawns for a fascist. Peter Rosenberg said, you all decided to go all the way full on props for the president. You pawns, you sad little pawns, what are you doing? And you guys will probably get to live a white, cushy, privileged enough life that you'll never even have to answer for how embarrassing this is to do. Wow. So imagine that's your reaction. That the men's hockey team is at the State of the Union celebrating America, celebrating patriotism, and they're nothing but pawns, you sad little pawns. People that many people have called heroes for winning that game. Now, according to Peter Rosenberg, and what is supposed to be, I guess, a ESPN radio show, a sports broadcast, calling them pawns, you sad little pawns. So while Rosenberg and others in the mainstream media, and specifically sports media, accused the hockey players of allowing themselves to be used as pawns, the media had no such issue with athletes allowing themselves to be, quote, used as pawns of the Obama administration in 2012 when the Boston Bruins came to celebrate their Stanley Cup champion. So in the hypocrisy in all this, but it shows, just like I think the State of the Union did, it shows this anger, this disdain by the left for celebration of this country, of patriotism in this country. If you recall, when we first started the broadcast on Frankly Speaking almost 3 years ago now, that was one of the things we kind of started off with, the lack, according to polls, of faith, no longer having faith in faith, no longer being involved in community, and of course this kind of disdain for patriotism. That is what we've unfortunately seen, not from the majority, of course, but from those who have the quote-unquote soapbox, the platform. Those in the media showing again their bias. And you've got to remember that it's not just bias in the mainstream media that we talk about so often, or the legacy media. It's also the bias in the sports world. We could continue here. New York Times, they gushed over the China competing Eileen Gu and then chastised the hockey team. So they had a piece, Inside the Mind of Eileen Gu, Winter's Olympic superstar, and so much more. They lauded the athlete as the most decorated freestyle skier. And they went on to talk about how great Gu is. They went on to celebrate Gu as someone who can fly without someone trying to clip her wings when she skis, bizarrely claiming, quote, it is the only time she does not have to answer questions about U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. What? But then in a Tuesday article in the New York Times, they highlighted the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team won gold and then lost the room. Jerry Brewer acknowledged that speaking with the U.S. president after an Olympic gold win would typically be an obligatory celebration, but argued that these are not normal times. This isn't a neutral climate. This isn't a neutral president. And in a nation this polarized, the proximity carries weight whether the players are being intentionally or merely naive. America no longer experiences these rituals in the same way, and it never will again, or may never will again. Athletes would be wise to recognize that in this climate, celebration is easily repurposed into political capital. So in these times, so basically insinuating that it's propaganda for the president, that this team shouldn't celebrate with the president. Why? Because it's a different president. Because this Mr. Brewer hates the president that much. So it's different times, because that's the ego and the mindset of many on the left and in the media, that right now is the most important. I'm the most aggrieved. I'm the most offended. And this is the worst time in history. So I must be experiencing hate to a level that no one else has experienced. Ego, me, 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 me. And therefore, I don't like the president, so no one should. And the men's hockey team, the U.S. men's hockey team, should not have went to the State of the Union. America no longer experiences rituals in the same way. Unbelievable. The piece went on to claim that the U.S. men's hockey team narrowed their moment when they stepped so early into that embrace. It doesn't ruin what they accomplished in defeating a seemingly indomitable Canadian squad, but the widespread celebration is over now, and some of their goodwill has diminished. So that is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're a social pariah. Now, they're a social pariah, not if they walk down Market Street right now, not if they walked in your hometown. They'd be heroes and getting a hero's welcome, rightfully so. so. But if they went into the New York Times newsroom, look out. They lost their capital. They lost the respect there of the echo chamber of the left. All right, we got to take a break. I ran late. I knew I was going to go on a tangent. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you can throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
I can finish the podcast after she finishes her laps.
My fantasy team isn't as important as his cannonball.
Drowning is the #1 cause of death in children ages 1 to 4. 88% of children who drown are under some form of adult supervision. A friendly reminder from the YMCA that your eyes can save lives. Visit phonesdowneyesup.org to take the water safety pledge today.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in the studio, we're going to talk about the 5th annual Climate Teach-In. Megan, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
So how's the planning go? This is the 5th annual. Have you been involved, what, a couple years or just this year?
I was involved my freshman year in just volunteering, and then last year I got more involved with communications, and this year I'm the academic fellow for the Interactive Science Fair.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
But tell us, how is the planning going for the 5th annual Climate Teach-In?
It's going great. We have such an amazing team, and we're involving a huge group of students, clubs, associations, faculty, and everyone's working really hard to get it going.
So tell us a little bit, for those that aren't aware, what this is. It's the 5th annual Climate Teach-In. I know I've mentioned it a few times.
Yes.
What is that exactly for us that maybe don't go to Elmira College?
Right. So it's an entire day on campus. There's a few things going around across the whole campus. Students involved, faculty involved, community members. We have a upcycle flea market that's going on where you can donate, and students donate reused goods so we can give it a second life.
Nice.
We've got interactive panels going on, discussional panels, more towards education and bringing a light to all of these real world issues right now. And then we have a science interactive fair for K through 12, which is we're having some students come in. We're having community members, clubs, associations.
Well, that's interesting. So, so kids are going to be able to get out of school essentially?
Yeah.
To go
so we have a few schools coming from around the area to participate, interact. It's going to be huge. And
you do have a keynote speaker.
Yes.
Brendan Woodruff from the New York State Department of Conservation's Director of Sustainability.
Yeah.
So what will Mr. Woodruff be talking about? Just a keynote address?
Yeah, just a general keynote address to set off the big day.
Now, is this open to the public, or is this just for students and Elmira College?
This is completely open to the public. The more the merrier. The past couple years, we've had up to 400 attendees, and we're expecting more growth.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that big.
Yes.
And this all takes place on Elmira College.
Right on Elmira College campus.
Now, you mentioned you're a part of the interactive fair. What is that?
Yeah. So in our Spidell Gymnasium, we're having tables lined up, hands-on demonstrations done by educational students, clubs doing hands-on demonstrations. educational demos for students. We also have students from other schools, elementary and high schools, participating as well, and community members and vendors either talking about their organizations or how we can all make an impact.
How long does the planning go for something like this? Because it sounds like it's a bigger event than I guess I realized.
Yes.
So how long have you been working on it?
We've been working since probably mid-September.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Yep.
Okay. There are going to be some discussion sessions as well. We've got just a couple in the name here. GTL Lecture Hall will be religious thought on climate change.
Yes.
In the Morris Classroom, athletics and climate, golf and sustainability. That one sounds interesting to me. I don't know. I would like to learn more about that. So how did you get involved in the planning of the 5th annual climate teaching?
Yeah, I'm an environmental science major, so
Okay.
Dr. Trevor Browning, who's one of the lead organizers for this event, actually roped me in when I was looking to do more, and I was in contact with a few schools because I'm an education major as well, so I was able to rope in some schools and just start helping, little things, volunteering, and then communications, and now the academic fellowship.
What are you looking forward to the most at the 5th annual climate teaching?
I'm just looking forward to the excitement. I love seeing the students get involved. I love educating the students on small things going on, huge things, how they can make an impact, even just one single person. So I'm just excited for everyone to be excited.
And you mentioned that you're a part of the interactive fair. Do you have a booth yourself, or are you just helping put it on? Oh yeah.
Yes, I'm actually going to have one as well. I'm doing how microbial fungi impact the symbiotic relationship with plants and recycling.
I was going to do the same thing on my show today, so I guess I'll save it till after the 5th annual.
Yeah, you can do it next year.
But that's interesting. How long did it take you to prepare and plan for that?
Yeah, so I have a partner in this for one of my education classes, and we started on this just a couple weeks ago, and it was a thought that I was having. So I just started collecting water bottles to use, and we're going to get going.
And tell us a little bit more about the flea market. So what exactly is the flea market?
Yeah, so the school building and grounds is amazing in helping us set up some huge black bins all around campus, and students and faculty, staff, professors all donate stuff. And building and grounds the day of collects it all for us, and we have it all spread out so people from the community, students can grab what they want and give it a second home.
Can we still donate?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
right on
so
campus.
there's just bins on campus.
Yep.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's the 5th annual climate teaching. Anything that people should be made aware of before we head out?
I think that everyone should just be ready to learn, ready to learn as much as they can, have an open mind, be very present, and try and view as many things as you can, really get hands-on and just come with open ears.
And that's Wednesday, March 18th at Elmira College.
Yes.
Megan, thanks so much for being on the show this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
Good day, meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I just read an interesting fact, and the media is trying to present, and I'm going to show you how the State of the Union was so successful because of the stories that came out after the fact. But they refuse to talk about the positives of the economy. One that's a small factor when you look at some of the, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. But a way to look at, is the economy doing better, weirdly enough, is through the tooth fairy. Listen to this. The average payout for a tooth under your child's pillow this year is $5.84, according to a poll from Delta Dental. That's a 17% increase over 2025, and the first jump in the value of teeth, I know this sounds weird, especially if you're just tuning in, since 2023. The going rate for a child's tooth doubles as an economic bellwether, as the money doled out by the tooth fairy reflects gains in the market and improves spending confidence. And based on other data from Delta Dental, the tooth fairy clearly hasn't gotten crushed by the falling price of Bitcoin, says this piece, trying to be funny. The loss of a first tooth is now worth an average of $7.17, up 23% from last year. All regions in the U.S. saw a spike in payouts, with the Northeast leading the way at $6.45 per tooth, a 41% increase. So a way to look at people's spending confidence, how they feel the market and the economy is headed. I just found that fascinating, just crossed my desk, and I thought I'd mention it to you. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch Bernie Sanders and Mark Wayne Mullen get involved in a heated back and forth, I would recommend it. Everybody we bring up here, Mullen said, you guys chastise for trying to make changes. This was at a Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions hearing yesterday. The committee was discussing issues with Obamacare during a hearing on the nomination of Casey Means as U.S. Surgeon General. Mullen said, God forbid we change and try to fix our broken system. Anyway, I ranted too long, he said, as Bernie Sanders took to the mic and said, yes, you did. Mullins responded by saying, I'm sorry, I didn't ask your opinion on that. And if I cared about your opinion, I would ask you. But I don't care about your opinion. You're part of the system. You're part of the problem. You've been sitting here longer than I've been alive. This is your problem. You should have fixed this a long time ago. You've been railing on it for so long. What have you been doing? Wow. So that's making... Good for Mark Wayne Mullen, making some splashes on social media. I'm not going to mention the comments that were made, mostly positive. Some saying, holy smokes, pummeled Bernie Sanders to his face. But Bernie Sanders, you're part of the problem. Okay, so this is something I've been wanting to bring up. Oh, we got a couple comments. Capitol Police hauled off Ilhan Omar's State of the Union guest. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We also have another comment. I was lucky if I got a quarter for a tooth, LOL. Yes, I know. Those numbers are startling. With the average, what did I say right now? 5.84, so $5.84. Wow. All right. I'm going to have to struggle reading Jonathan Turley's piece to you, but he kind of put into written word what we've been saying so much on this program and kind of been fascinated by. Respectfully blank off. Those words by California Governor Gavin Newsom's spokesperson, Izzy Garden, summed up the current race to the bottom of American politics. And we've talked about it with Jasmine Crockett, so many others. This constant cursing and swearing. Democrats appear in a competition of the profane, where voters are now subject to a virtual carpet bombing of curse words and other indecent language. Garden's response, again, Gavin Newsom's spokesperson, was to a standard media inquiry. So after Newsom, and we talked about it earlier in the week, after Newsom was being criticized as racist for that speech that he gave, a reporter, and I think it was from a very friendly outlet. Anyway, they asked, hey, do you have any comment on this? And that was the response from Gavin Newsom's spokesperson, respectfully blank off. So reporters followed up to ask for proof about his disability because he blamed it. He started cussing in a tweet, and then he said, essentially, I'm dyslexic, I'm the victim here. So the reporter said, could you follow up on this? Could you give us some indication that he actually does have a disability? Then Newsom unleashed a profane attack on Sean Hannity, who gave the California governor a chance to respond to his critics. When Hannity criticized Newsom's comment in Atlanta, the governor posted several four-letter words on X, including "spare me your fake blanking outrage." There was a time when political leaders maintained basic standards of civility and avoided profanity in public. Presidents like Lyndon Johnson would be quite salty in private, but drew a line in public. Notably, one of Richard Nixon's objections to his tapes being made public was the inclusion of foul language used in the Oval Office. He noted in his book In the Arena that, quote, "since neither I nor most other presidents had ever used profanity in public, millions were shocked. It was not long ago that Trump's then new White House communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, shocked many with a profane diatribe. He defended it as, quote, an Italian thing. Jonathan Turley said at the time, I wrote that as someone who was raised in an Italian family, we clearly had a different upbringing. I noted that if I used that language in public, my Sicilian grandmother would have ended the diatribe with a backhand." So we continue. Profanity sometimes added to the mystique of military leaders who sought to convey that they were unconcerned with social norms as warriors. Of course, we know General George Patton. Politics was different. The public once looked to political leaders as role models who exemplified social norms. It now appears that profanity is viewed as an essential element of political speech on the left. There was actually, and I didn't get to it the other day, one candidate put out a campaign ad full of swear words. Katie Porter this week thrilled a crowd by waving around a sign that read "blank Trump." Porter was previously criticized for using such language to abuse staffers, by the way. At the State of the Union, Representative Rashida Tlaib wore a button on the House floor reading "blank ICE." Such behavior is not limited to just Democrats. President Trump has used profanity on occasion. However, the Democrats appear to have made profanity a signature element in their campaign. Representative Jasmine Crockett, who we're going to talk about in a second, who is running for U.S. Senate in Texas, seems a perpetual profanity machine, regularly telling figures like Elon Musk, cost, you get it. Some are virtually giggling over swearing in public. That's what I mean. It almost is like a kid with these people that is getting away with something. Like they just realize that they're grown-ups and they can swear, and it really is, and it's just like Gavin Newsom with his shtick trying to insult the president so much. It's run its course. I mean, I don't think people are shocked and paying attention to it anymore. It's just you look childish. Maxine Dexter declared, "I don't swear in public very well, but we have to blank Trump. Please don't tell my children that I just did that." See, she's trying to make it funny, trying to make it quote-unquote relatable. The crowd roared with approval. There is a belief that profanity, in a way, is a way to connect to younger voters who trash talk and seem to like what was once called potty mouths, says Jonathan Turley. However, there's also a clear use of profanity as a way to establish your bona fides with the mob. Trashing conventions in favor of civility and decency is a way to convey that you are part of a radical chic. Figures like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have tried cringeworthy efforts to connect with voters by dancing or cooking burgers. Schumer then joined his colleagues in dropping curse words to show that he is very, very angry. The use of profanity has risen alongside the rise in rage rhetoric, and this is why it gets important. Democratic politicians now regularly call Trump, Republicans, and law enforcement Nazis and Gestapo. Many are promising to carry out a crackdown on Trump supporters once they are returning to power, including through criminal prosecution. The de-evolution of American politics is occurring as politicians and pundits call for radical changes to our constitutional system. Showing that you do not respect social conventions adds to your cachet as a radical leader. So I just thought this was, and again, when you play to the mob, as Jonathan Turley says, the revolution tends to devour their own. Swearing up a storm will not satisfy the mob very long. Democrats hope to ride the rage wave back into power and assume that once they have that power, the mob will simply disappear in gratitude. It is likely that politicians of both parties will continue this trend toward potty mouth politics. If you are speaking with civility, you are not mad enough. It's just like Stephen Colbert criticizing Hakeem Jeffries for staying silent. These politicians are feeding a rage addiction in this country by showing that they do not respect any limits of decency or decorum in seeking radical changes. Mark Twain said that, quote, under certain circumstances, urgent circumstances, desperate circumstances, profanity provides relief denied even to prayer. The difference today is that the profanity itself is a prayer for politicians seeking power. There is a belief that if you want to be sworn in as the new governor of California or senator from Texas, you'd better start swearing now. I thought that was a great piece by Jonathan Turley, and it's working for Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett leads James Tellerico by double digits in a new shocking poll from the Texas Tribune. And you don't see the media reporting on the fact that Jasmine Crockett's event they escorted an Atlantic reporter out, and the campaign called Capitol Police on the CNN journalist. Remember, we talked about town halls and the like. The media loved talking about a Republican that had to escort someone out who was being violent or being disruptive. Now, Jasmine Crockett gets a pass. And remember, the Atlantic wrote that glowing piece on her. She found out the Atlantic had interviewed some of her colleagues, did not like it, and threatened, which you cannot do, threatened to not allow them to publish the piece. She does not have that power. That's not something you can do. So she tried that. So now she must have a grudge. But will you see CNN reporting on the fact that they called the Capitol Police on the CNN journalist? Wow. In a statement by Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg at the time, in a democracy, elected officials answer questions from the press rather than hide from them. This is completely unacceptable behavior by Representative Crockett and her team and needs to be addressed immediately. Anyway, you get the idea. All right, we got a lot more to talk about. Keep your comments, keep your waves coming in. I know I'm running a little bit late. Stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking. Wow, am I that way? Yep. After this.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
Good meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We've got to take another short break. I ran so long. I want to read a couple of viewer comments, do a tad bit of housekeeping, and then we'll take another short break. Comment from a viewer: the real pawns in America are being used by the left and the media. And this is in reference to somehow that article or that ESPN host, suggesting that the U.S. men's hockey team were pawns, sad little pawns for the president. So this viewer believes that the real pawns in America are being used by the left and the media. Good and Pretty are prime examples. The media drove the frenzy to get on TV doing incredibly stupid stuff to kind of push these viral videos and like that. The Democrats brought them to the State of the Union. Yes, you had anti-ICE protesters. You had numerous people that were there as guests of Democrat Congress people that were there to disrupt. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And to continue using them by encouraging bad behavior for a media soundbite. The left just uses these pawns and discards them after they are no longer useful. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I see the Democrats are starting an investigation into the DOJ for not releasing the Epstein files that pertain to Trump. Yeah, there's a little more nuance to that there, but you're right, Mark. We may be able to get to that a little bit later on, but there's a little more nuance now. I know Hillary is supposed to have her deposition here pretty soon. The New York Times actually calling it, for Hillary Clinton, an Epstein deposition is the latest, quote, stand by your man moment. The former First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State had no dealings with Jeffrey Epstein, but is once again under pressure to answer for the actions and relationship of her husband. Ooh, that's getting interesting. Because remember, they turned on Bill there for a while during the Me Too movement. Then they kind of put him back in favor and let him speak to the DNC. But you've always had that kind of underlining issue with Hillary in the media more recently, not at the time of her running and things like that, because of this, quote, stand by your man attitude that she's had her whole life. Interesting. But I don't know how much we'll get to talk about Epstein. I do want to talk a little bit more about the State of the Union, because yesterday we got a statement from Congressman Langworthy on it. And I want to show you a little bit about how the media, you could tell it was successful, because the media is in a tizzy. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Walking Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us, saying we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Good day, meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Appreciate you joining us. Hour number one nearly over. In the next hour, we're going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Looking forward to that. He had a hearing at the Labor Workforce Development hearing with the Governor's Office of Employee Relations. It's in regards to corrections officers. That you don't want to miss that. That's coming up in the next hour. Just two highlights on how you know that the State of the Union was successful. The Washington Post writes, Republicans stare down epic voter enthusiasm gap ahead of 2026 midterms. Do you have an enthusiasm gap? If you are a Republican, do you feel that you just don't even know if you'll go out to the polls? I think this is one way that they reflect and say, oh, we know the president had a good State of the Union. I'm not saying they begrudgingly admitted it. Most didn't admit it, but you can read between the lines. So they have to start putting out articles that discourage you. Well, it's all over. It's all over. And then they lie to you by saying the Democrats bet on a centrist in their rebuttal to Trump's speech. Yes, Spanberger, according to the Associated Press, that's Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger, is a centrist. And we just got off piggybacking off that story about the left using so much foul language. That's a centrist, I guess. Abigail Spanberger is a centrist. We hear it all the time here in New York State that Governor Hochul is a moderate, is a centrist. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk a few things about the State of the Union. We do have some New York State updates. We got a lot to cover, as a matter of fact. Yeah, we got a lot to cover. So I don't want to get too far behind because this hour is nearly through. If you went, I forgot that the hearing yesterday, by the way, if Ken's watching, I apologize that I didn't promote it one last time yesterday. I just saw that in my stack of paperwork. And again, if you missed yesterday, our interview with Sheriff Allard, getting a lot of reaction. So I would highly recommend that you go to our YouTube page or you go to WYDCTV.com and find that full interview, that exclusive sit-down interview with Sheriff Jim Allard. It was a good one. We always appreciate the sheriff being on the program. We'll have him on again soon. Next week, we'll have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, but we do have a clip from him a little bit later on in today's broadcast. All right, stay with us. We need to take a short break. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. When we return, statement from Congressman Langworthy on the State of the Union, then we get into the nitty-gritty. Still, a few days after the smoke clears, a day after the smoke clears, still a lot to talk about with the State of the Union, so stay with us.
Suburban Propane is here for your residential and industrial propane needs. Serving the surrounding area for over 95 years, we take pride in our reliable delivery service with 24/7, 365 emergency service answered by company representatives. Call today to start your Suburban Propane service.
Then I wish the more you bundle, the more you save on insurance with Liberty Bibbity.
It's like you're talking my love language.
Well, I've been taking word classes online.
Wow.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
Do you have fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now is the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a comment from a viewer. Yes, I saw that the FBI has arrested a retired Air Force pilot, decorated pilot with decades of experience for allegedly training pilots in China's military. I don't know if they were, I think it was giving information. I don't know exactly. I had the story here, and I don't know if it printed out or not, and I can't remember what outlet I saw it on. But yes, very troubling information coming out there. I believe I got it in the New York Post, but I don't think there's any way I'll be able to call that up quickly. But thank you, and keep your comments and keep your breaking news stories coming in. Yeah, I can't find it. All right. And if you are new to the program, the number on the bottom of the screen, you can reach out at any time, day or night, text or leave a voicemail, and we try to do our best to read your comments live on air. Here we go. Elite ex-U.S. Air Force fighter jet pilot charged with providing defense services to the Chinese military. Okay. It was allegations he spent years overseas training Chinese military pilots. I misread it. Thank you, viewer. I misread it. I thought it was providing information. Now I see that it is training Chinese military pilots. Gerald Eddie Brown Jr., 65 years old, was arrested in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and charged with providing and conspiring to provide defense services to Chinese military pilots without authorization in violation of the Arms Export Control Act. Wow. Thank you for that. Okay. So yesterday, Congressman Nick Langworthy sent a statement in regards to the State of the Union. Then we're going to say what some people had to say just in general about the State of the Union. But this is from Congressman Nick Langworthy. On the year of our nation's 250th birthday, President Trump offered a bold vision for an America that is growing stronger and safer every day. His speech correctly pointed out the facts on how our American First policies are delivering results. Taxes and prices are down. Private sector job growth and wages are up. Mortgage rates are at the lowest rate in 4 years. Fentanyl trafficking is down 56%, and the border is secure with 0 illegal crossings last month. Our peace through strength mantra has made every citizen of the world safer. His speech was filled with pride and optimism for our country, honoring our heroes and celebrating our wins, while acknowledging the steep price of freedom and the work ahead. I have long supported many of the policies the president is looking to tackle next, such as stock trading bans for members of Congress, cracking down on corporations buying up housing stock, and implementing voter ID. These are common sense policies that further our efforts to return our country to the hands of the people where it belongs. We have a lot more work to do to restore America's greatness, but the progress is undeniable. The path is clear, and we are resolute in our mission. Thank you very much. So that was in regards to the State of the Union. John Fetterman is being criticized for having the audacity to shake the President of the United States' hand. Shaking his hand. John Fetterman, who appeared to be the only Democrat to shake hands with President Trump at Tuesday's State of the Union, argued that the left's behavior will not help its cause. Yeah, I think the left had a very bad night during the State of the Union. Whether it was Trump in that perfect display of politics, with a video that you'll see over and over until November of calling out Democrats for saying, do you stand right now for American citizens over illegal aliens? And they would not stand. They walked right into his trap. I know, who was it? Was it the New York Times or was it CNN saying, well, he tried to get Democrats to support his causes. They wouldn't. That's not the way. You want to look at it that way, that's fine. But that was so masterful that I believe in future State of the Unions, not just with President Trump, that will be kind of a standard thing now, setting up the quote-unquote opponent in a way that does not look favorably. That's how amazing that was. But John Fetterman was asked, it looks like you're the only Democrat to shake Donald Trump's hand. He said, I do believe that's true. I shook his hand, of course. He walked in, and I'm always going to do that, for sure. Now, Fetterman described his side of the aisle, the Democrats, as disappointing, adding he found it sad so many of his colleagues didn't show up. I think show up. You don't have to clap for everything. You don't have to agree with everything. It's the constant kind of yelling and screaming and holding up signs and for doing all these things. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat. It is a president. Just don't do that. Respect the office. Some Democrats, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment, but some Democrats instead chose to attend what was called the State of the Swamp event. Are they stealing the swamp term from Trump? Anyway, intended as a response to the State of the Union. Actor Robert De Niro attended the event, which featured members of the Portland Frog Brigade, dressed in inflatable frog costumes. You heard me right. That is some type of rally that they had. Fetterman argued that these kinds of events aren't helping his party, saying, I don't believe as a Democrat, dancing frogs really moves the ball for us as a party either. Pretty amazing that he is, that Fetterman is the only reasonable politician on the left, it seems like, is shaking the president's hand. He said, if someone's angry that I shook the president's hand as he walked in, I think that's on them. Pointing out that people who are upset that he shook Trump's hand didn't really have a problem when Zohran Mamdani visited the White House. If we refuse to talk to the other side, I mean, that's the only one that really loses. That's America. In response to Fetterman, people called him a true traitor and a sellout. Fetterman wears a suit and tie for Trump. I hate him. We need to get him out, said one user. Sellout, wrote another. John Fetterman, so you can wear a suit and tie, another person wrote. Just say you're a Republican already. All right, here's how you know. Well, we got a couple comments coming in. Yes, Steve. Hi, Steve. Good morning. Did you happen to cover the 4 U.S. citizens killed on a boat by Cuban Coast Guard? Yes, I did at the very top of the hour, top of the 6 o'clock hour is breaking news. But thank you to reiterate that. Marco Rubio said they are going to do a full investigation into what happened. Cuba, we're not just going to take Cuba at their word, is what he said. because Cuba, of course, is saying that they were some type of they were formerly Cuban citizens and they were trying to infiltrate Cuba. That was their argument, and that it led to that shootout. There was, I think, a total of 11 or 12 people on the boat. 4 were killed, and they were U.S. citizens. So when we learn more, we'll tell you more, because I know that's a breaking story. Look at all these waves coming in. Thank you. A viewer writes in that they had heard, this is allegedly, the Dunkin' Donuts on Chamber Road may be having an issue and may be on fire. I have not heard that. If you do see that, send in pictures or let me know more about that. So do not take that 100% at face value. We're both saying supposedly. That was just rumors, perhaps, or maybe it's factual. We'll find out. A comment from a viewer. The Democrats always have a bad day, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully this light shines on the beginning of the end of this hateful, deceitful, bigoted party. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about the media here. This is how you know that President Trump had a very impactful and did a very good job at the State of the Union. Because listen to this piece by Aaron Blake that came out early this morning. Because they're trying to combat this. So like I said, there's just no excitement in the Republican Party. It's all over. The midterms, it's over. When you start seeing people scream from the rooftops like that, you know he had a very impactful speech at the State of the Union. Here's one for the books. Aaron Blake writes, polls show concerns about Trump's mental acuity are increasing. So the American people's concerns about Trump's mental acuity is increasing. Now, of course, we can always do would this have ever been an article about Biden as CNN or any mainstream media? No, of course not. But you can also say, interesting timing. All of a sudden, there's a poll after the President of the United States gives a 1 hour and 47-minute State of the Union address, where most of it, yes, on teleprompter, a lot of it off the cuff, which some would argue the off the cuff was his best moments. So after that, they say, the American people are onto us. We didn't cover Biden at all with what we now know was clear mental health issues and just physical health issues. So now their argument is we're going to cover it nonstop with Trump. And our argument will be you didn't like that we didn't cover Biden, so now we're making up for it with the president currently. It just happens to be that the one we didn't cover was a Democrat. The one we are currently covering is Republican. But this is an example of, originally with Biden, it's never mind what you're seeing with your eyes, just believe us. It's the same, but on the opposite side of the coin when it comes to Trump. Never mind what you're seeing. Never mind the fact that he just gave a 1 hour and 47-minute speech. Never mind that we see him at press conferences. We see him at cabinet meetings. We see him everywhere all the time. The most transparent president, arguably in history. Never mind that you see that. Trust us at CNN and trust us at this polling firm that people are concerned about about Trump's mental acuity. A year plus into Trump's 4-year term, polls suggest the American people aren't just increasingly unhappy with his job performance, they're increasingly concerned about his mental capacity as well. In fact, multiple recent polls show a majority of Americans questioning in one way or another, and even many Republicans seem to have concerns. What's the chances that comes out after that amazing State of the Union address, unless they're terrified how the State of the Union address went? Right? I just thought that was such a tell, right? That's a poker term. Such a tell by the media, and just, again, proving their bias by saying, this didn't go well for us in the Democrat Party. So what, and the Democrats looked horrible. What should we do about it? We'll make up some fabricated poll, and we'll say that people are worried about his mental health, and we'll put a very unflattering photo in that. It is so predictable. All right. Yes, another person sending in, or a person sending in that a fire through the roof at Dunkin' Donuts in Big Flats in Horses. Okay, thank you for that. I had not heard that, but that is what's being reported. Okay. Elon Omar claims that at the State of the Union that her guest was forcefully removed and arrested for standing during Trump's address. First of all, if you're at the State of the Union, I don't know if I believe what happened here. I don't know. But it's like if you go to a concert and everybody's sitting, but there's one person right in front of you that wants to dance along to the music and stand the whole time. I know it's a protest. Okay, you're standing. You're really showing that you hate the president more than anybody. Is that really the place? Ilhan Omar said that one of her guests she invited to the State of the Union was arrested and forcibly removed from the House gallery as she slammed the heavy-handed Capitol Police response. My guest, Aliyah Rahman, stood up silently in the gallery during the president's speech for a short period of time, part of which other guests were also standing. For that, she was forcibly removed despite warning officers about her injured shoulder and ultimately charged with unlawful conduct. The squad member said reports indicate she was aggressively handled until someone intervened to secure medical attention. Ilhan Omar also said that heckling during Trump's State of the Union was unavoidable for her. I think it was really unavoidable. The president talked about protecting Americans, and I just had to remind him that his administration was responsible for killing 2 of my constituents. Wolf Blitzer said in Minneapolis, many members of your Democrat Party criticized the Republican counterparts when they interrupted President Biden's State of the Union address. A lot of us remember. Do you have any regrets at all about the interaction we played between you and President Trump just last night? She said, I do not. And I think many people look at that moment when the president says it is our responsibility to protect Americans, and he does not acknowledge the fact that 2 Americans, 2 of my constituents, 2 of our neighbors were killed. And it was important for me. It's just a reminding the American people that the president and his administration was responsible for killing 2 American citizens. So, again, you cannot compare. I know, was it Joe Wilson who yelled to Obama, you lie? The comparison between what a Republican does during a Democrat's presidency at the State of the Union is not comparable whatsoever to what we saw the other night. It's not. I know the media tries to push that. The media tries to do that. But look, Ilhan Omar, to them in the media, is a hero for doing that. When Joe Wilson said to Obama that you lie, it was the end of the world, end of decorum, end of perhaps the State of the Union, democracy itself, because it's always been that radicalism of calling everything the end of democracy. Rashida Tlaib, representative, is fueling outrage because she actually chanted, and I missed this, but chanted during the State of the Union KKK. The Michigan Democrat was caught in a new clip mockingly jeering the far-right hate group's moniker to controversial ally Representative Ilhan Omar as her Republican colleague erupted in thunderous applause. Well, that's a weird way of wording that. Everything that you need to know about today's Democrats of the National Republican Congressional Committee as she chanted, think of that, chanted KKK. They cannot stand this country, they cannot stand its comeback, and they cannot hide their contempt anymore. Outraged critics blasted Tlaib, already under fire for sporting a blank ice pin on her lapel and frequently heckling Trump throughout his primetime speech. And keep in mind, when they're heckling folks, and you know this isn't about proving their point or getting a message out there. This is about fundraising and getting their face on camera and getting articles like this published. One Twitter user saying, as a black American, watching Tlaib, a non-black person, chant KKK is beyond offensive. The word carries generations of terror and pain, and it's not a prop for political theater. This is conduct unbecoming of a member of Congress. Censure her. That's a great point. That is a very great point. But this comes from the party that is very quick, as we mentioned earlier, by that piece by Jonathan Turley, quick to mention and use Nazi, Gestapo, etc. Now, if you weren't heckling, if you weren't trying to disrupt the State of the Union and make a name for yourself and fundraise and get attention, then you were criticized. On The Late Show, Stephen Colbert tore into House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries over his guidance for a, quote, silent protest of President Trump's State of the Union. He said that's as bold of a rebrand of doing jack squat. For Democrats who did attend the State of the Union, Hakeem Jeffries urged members not to make a scene, an approach he dubbed silent defiance, which I believe is a bold rebrand of doing jack squat. As Martin Luther King once said, shh, he added, displaying a mock quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. This is Stephen Colbert, far left. Keep this in mind. This is how radical it's become. So now you're in a position where if you stay silent, you will be attacked by the far left. Now, there was also that event, People's State of the Union, The event, described as a rally, was organized by Midas Touch and Move On Civic Action, a pair of left-leaning media and activist groups, and focused on criticism of Trump. The event drew Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, Chris Murphy, Chris Van Hollen, Tina Smith, so it was kind of counter-programming. I don't need to go through everybody that was there. Colbert touted those members of the Democrat Party who opted out of the State of the Union. One of the big stories tonight was who wasn't there. Roughly 50 Democrat members of the House and Senate plan to forego the speech. I wish we were one. And then he made some really bad joke. That was not one of the big stories that night. Who didn't attend? Maybe on Huffington Post and places like that. That was not a big story whatsoever. Am I running that late? I haven't played a commercial yet this hour. Yikes. But no, that wasn't one of the big stories. That was Stephen Colbert's big story because it shows that defiance and that anger towards the president. We got some comments coming in, run a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
It's the Jeep and Stay sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Some comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. There seems to be an abundance of lawyers, but not enough psychiatrists. The Democrats really need some help. Trump is right. They are truly crazy. Thank you very much. Coming from a different viewer. My view is that the deceitful mainstream media falsely reporting on our president's mental health are only spreading the lies in order to put a suggestion of doubt in the minds of middle-of-the-road voters. I agree. It's propaganda, and we're going to see it all the way. They know how successful Trump's speech was at the State of the Union, and they are absolutely terrified of that. So that's why the next day there's an article about his mental health, and that's why they're saying, oh, Republicans don't care. It's all over. The election is essentially all over. Okay. And that's why, and I've got to mention this, because we were talking about Fetterman being reasonable. We're talking about, obviously, Stephen Colbert not. For the better part of Trump's first term, Democrats regularly protested that the president was shattering norms in dangerous ways. Do you remember that? Shattering norms and institutions. Kristen Flemings writes, much of their rhetoric revolved around the grand task of preserving them. But fast forward to, meaning preserving the norms. But fast forward to another Trump presidency, and they're no longer crying about keeping norms intact. They've moved to the if you can't beat them, join them phase, and then way, way, way beyond that. Many Democrat politicians decided to shatter some norms, bigly, and snub President Trump's State of the Union address. They skipped a pep rally for awesome Americans like World War II vet George Buddy Taggart, National Guardsman Andrew Wolf, who had a miraculous recovery after being shot by a terrorist on Thanksgiving Eve in Washington, and Team USA's gold medal men's hockey team. Instead, some of our nation's lawmakers chose to hang with whack jobs and inflatable frog costumes at a State of the Swamp event in D.C. Quote, tonight I defy Trump and his authoritarian project by standing in joyful, radical, peaceful resistance with the Portland Frog Brigade, said Representative Maxine Dexter of Oregon, proudly sporting Kermit's cousins on their heads. We answered with frog costumes, dancing, singing, and joy when Trump wanted us to cower in fear, she said, crediting her amphibian army with keeping the National Guard out of the city. This is the delusion of many Democrat leaders today. They falsely believe joy is a viable political or governing strategy, which is only true if you're keeping order at a grade school art fair. But hey, it ain't easy being green, Fleming said. The MVP of the alt farce was prolific protester Robert Portlow, who goes by Robbie Road Steamer. Wearing a giraffe onesie and a fanny pack, Portlow, seemingly channeling the voice of Macho Man Randy Savage, bragged on stage he was arrested 3 times by ICE, twice in Minneapolis, once in Portland. Still, he persisted. They can't erase a movement, he wrote. Imagine you're a politician, you see that's going to be one of the speakers. If the left was smart, they'd ease this clown limb out of the party pronto. And that's what Fetterman was saying. This clown act, ease it out of the party. It is not doing them any favors. But no, actual legislators entertained the frogs and giraffes who cheered as Representative Seth Moulton from Massachusetts said the president, quote, sounds like your drunk uncle, end quote. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey delivered what was considered a rebuttal of Trump's address. Hapless Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, whose approval ratings live in the toilet, dismissed Trump's speech as just ramblings and incoherent phrases of nothing, which you can hate Trump. You can't say that. I mean, that's what some of them didn't watch it. But anyway, spoken like an expert, she writes. Don't feel left out, New York. Representative Daniel Goldman was there too, also using the alt programming to seize on division and fan the flames. He greeted the crowd with, hello, my frogs. Other exciting guests included Jim Acosta. Really? Jim Acosta? Yeah, again, proving that he was never biased, right? Mehdi Hassan, George Conway, not to mention tiresome actors Mark Ruffalo and Robert De Niro, who complained about freedoms and fellow citizens being taken away and compared loving our country to an abused spouse professing love for their abuser. So if you love your country, you're an abused spouse professing love to your abuser. Did you feel like you missed out yet at attending the event? No wonder most Democrats feel their party has not only lost its way, but has no compass. They want real leaders to simply act like adults and speak with clarity and pragmatism, not glom on to adults wearing the contents of the Park City sales rack. Over on the National Mall, Democrats like Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, Adam Schiff of California, Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, lamely chose to spend their time with Joy Reid, who hosted Change.org's People's State of the Union. These are not normal times, Chris Murphy said to the audience, and Democrats have to stop behaving normally. Well, guess what? Mission accomplished, Senator. Trump also slammed low IQ Robert De Niro. He went on Truth Social, and he ripped Robert De Niro as low IQ. He also criticized Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib for having screamed uncontrollably during the State of the Union address. Trump claimed that they had the bulging, bloodshot eyes of crazy people and suggested they should be sent, quote, back from where they came. They could only damage the United States of America. They could do nothing to help it. They should actually get on a boat with Trump deranged Robert De Niro, why do I keep saying that, and another sick, demented person, which I believe an extremely low IQ, who has absolutely no idea what he is doing or saying, some of which is seriously criminal. When I watched him break down in tears last night, much like a child would do, I realized that he may be even sicker than crazy Rosie O'Donnell, who is right now in Ireland trying to figure out how to come back into our beautiful United States. Trump added that the only difference between De Niro and O'Donnell is she probably is somewhat smarter than him. Hoo-hoo. All right, we got to take another break. I'm running late. When we return, a couple of other things here about the State of the Union. Reading your comments. I do, maybe a little bit later on, I want to get to, and I look forward to it, playing a clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on corrections officers from yesterday. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Good job, buddy. Hey, buddy. It's time. Gotta go. Listen, I could be there in 15 minutes. Yep, see you soon. All right, you know the drill. Your brother could always do it. That's what I thought.
I just want it to stop.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Is it really that surprising people with no moral compass would use bad language? That's a very fair point. Comment from a different viewer. That heckling squad member pictured with her hand around her mouth made her mouth resemble her words, namely the back end of a donkey. Comment from a different viewer. Mark writes in, is it a wonder that Hochul... It's a wonder that Hochul didn't send Frankie Focus to the Frog Convention to swim in the swamp. That's a very good point. That would have been a perfect... It could have been a guest speaker, Frankie Focus. Because doesn't Frankie Focus actually say some words? We haven't seen Frankie Focus in a while. How disappointing. Thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. The Democrat Party can't be content with anything normal. If it isn't bizarre, it isn't spotlight worthy. I wish that the midterm election was today. A very good point. And final comment. Okay, I have to stop supporting Trump, because he promised to come back on your show and hasn't. This would be the perfect time for him. Well, I understand. Thank you. Don't stop supporting Trump because of that. He did say back in 2016 that if he wins, he would come back on. But that was different. Those were different times. That was radio. Now it's TV. So maybe he's just waiting. Give it a little time. We haven't given up hope. But thank you for remembering that. Miranda Devine said the Democrats showed their true colors yesterday as they failed the president's test of allegiance to this country. They're so devoted to illegal migration that they walk straight into his trap. And that's exactly what it is. And we said that yesterday. It was a trap that he said. It wasn't, as CNN put it, they wouldn't support his ideas and his touting of his record. No, it wasn't that. He set him up for that perfect video. While they were screaming, hoping to get on MSN Now, fine. You can fundraise off that. Trump was making videos for the midterms where every Republican can show that Democrat that they're running against not standing for American citizens. But I'll continue. President Trump asked every lawmaker in the chamber to stand if they believe their primary duty is to protect American citizens rather than illegal migrants. That should have been a no-brainer. It's the essence of putting America first. But the Democrats refused to stand. Trump said one of the greatest things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans a chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. The Republicans all leapt to their feet, but those on the Democrat side of the chamber were glued to their chairs, caught in a moral cul-de-sac. Their Trump derangement won't allow them to escape. Isn't that a shame? Said Trump, surveying the seated Democrats and milking their humiliation for maximum effect. It really is a shame. Far-left squad members Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib transferred their shame into incoherent heckling of the president. No surprise that Democrats are refusing to pass the SAVE Act that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote and an ID to cast a ballot. Since it's a measure with 83% approval in opinion polls, Trump pointed out that the only plausible reason Democrats could oppose such popular, common-sense legislation is because their policies, quote, are so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And the media tried to have a field day with that. It fell flat. But they were trying, because they were trying to say, oh, it's ominous. Remember, I think that was seen an ominous threat. We are left to assume that Democrats reject election integrity because they need illegal migration to replenish the store of beholden voters who overtook their destructive policies or overlooked their destructive policies in exchange for unlimited handouts and a blind eye to welfare fraud. Trump's success at closing the border has been a political liability in some ways, now that illegal migration has dropped off the radar and the Democrat narrative has drawn public sympathy. But closing the floodgates is only the first step in rescuing the country from the disaster inflicted by Joe Biden and others. We don't have to go into this much longer. But I just thought it was a very good piece, exactly exposing the Democrats for what they were. And Adam Coleman said, and Adam Coleman, we've talked about him in the past. He writes for the New York Times or New York Post. He's the author of The Children We Left Behind and founder of Wrong Speak Publishing. He wrote in Tuesday night's State of the Union, President Trump laid out a question and a choice for the midterms. Are you for Americans or not? Tonight, I'm inviting I don't have to keep reading that statement. Democrats remain frozen in their chair. Yes, the State of the Union is political pageantry. The yelling from the opposition party and the overexcitement from the party in power are to be expected at this point. But even for the sake of optics, the Democrats refuse to stand because they genuinely believe people who are here illegally are on equal footing as an American like you and I. In one evening, they sat with pride as they noted themselves as the overtly anti-American political party. The first time I voted was for the first term Barack Obama, Coleman writes, who openly spoke with a pro-American and common-sense immigration message, maintaining that America is a land of opportunity only accessible to those who came here legally. The American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration, but they can't have a situation where they just have 500,000 people pouring over the border without any mechanism to control it, Obama said at the time. We don't have to go through all of this. But the liberal media says the midterms will be a referendum on the economy or Donald Trump's personality. On Tuesday night, the president made it a referendum on national pride. Do you stand for Americans or don't you? Well, Democrats sat. I thought that was a great point from Adam Coleman. We got to take a short break. In the next segment, we will play Phil Palmisano's clip. I really want to play this for you. It's going to be a little off topic from the State of the Union, but we don't want to miss this clip. So stay with us.
State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
World Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world. We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to. Yeah. Right, Rod? Exactly. We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
Good morning, meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A lot of great comments coming in. Keep them coming in. But as promised, I want to play this clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano before we run out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking.
My questions are for the director. Obviously, the issue of what happened with our corrections officers and the work stoppage last year was significant. And we know you were involved in discussions and negotiations. We also know you were involved, your office was involved and signed off with docs related to proposed changes to the HALT Act. And certainly, we'd love to know how that's being implemented, but we know to have significant impact, we need to pass it in statute. And I did ask the docs commissioner when he was here, why did not Governor Hochul put that in her budget proposal if you want to negotiate from a position of strength? Because there's people that I serve with that don't want any changes to HALT. But if she's concerned about the safety and well-being of our corrections officers, we know the safety issue is one of the main reasons for the work stoppage on top of the quality of life because of the massive overtime, double, triple overtime shifts. We know, and you signed off on it, all the unions supported it, that we need these changes, not repeal, but changes. Why didn't the governor not put it in her budget to show that she cares about this issue and wants it to happen? Then she's saying that's a priority for her. Why did she not put that in her budget? And did you advise her to put it in her budget? Because it's not there.
So while we're a member of the HALT committee, really the lead on the HALT committee was the Department of Corrections, so I wasn't involved in any conversations.
Well, you signed a paper.
Well, my staff was involved, and
Yes,
I'm not disavowing being there and supporting it, but DOCS is the lead agency on that.
But he deferred, said, it's up to the governor. You're the governor's Office of Employee Relations. Did you guys advise the governor to sign it, to put it in her budget? And why didn't she put it in her budget?
That would be a departmental covering the Department of Corrections only. It wouldn't be, it's not an employee relations bill.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about, if you want to talk about employee relations, I mean, recruitment and retention is employee relations, correct? Is that fair?
Correct.
Yeah, good. Okay. One of the big issues that our corrections officers have been asking for years, a bill that's passed our House unanimously 3 times, once vetoed by Governor Cuomo and twice vetoed by Governor Hochul. And her reasons for vetoing the bill were that we need to do it as part of the budget. But then she never puts it in her budget. She didn't put it in her budget the second year, vetoed it again. And here it is, not in her budget this year. And I asked the commissioner then, why didn't he put it in the budget? And he wouldn't comment. I think they want to see it. If this is a serious recruitment and retention tool to protect the retirement of those individuals who work a very dangerous job. Why would she not put it in their budget? That will help with your retention because we know 2,000 CEOs were fired. We have a shortage of nearly 4,000. That would help address a major recruitment or retention issue and certainly help on recruitment because when they know they have that protection for their loved one. Why is the governor not putting this in her budget? Thank you. Did she just think, and then we're going to pass it and she's going to veto it? I don't understand.
I understand the point you're making. I don't
Well, I'm
have
glad,
any.
but why aren't they not
I don't
doing
have
it?
any information on why the governor didn't, why the administration didn't put it in the budget.
Well, I'll give you my my interpretation of why she didn't, because she doesn't care. If she did, she would put the death gamble in the budget. She knows it. Her staff knows it. You don't have to admit to it. Neither does the DOCS commissioner. She did not put in her budget because she does not care. She did not put the HALT reforms in her budget because she did not care. We've seen her with policy after policy after policy. She's putting policy in the budget. If it's important to her, cell phone bans in schools was important to her. She put in her ban, but not HALT reforms to protect the corrections officers and the other employees, civilian employees that work inside those facilities. Needed that reform that everyone signed off on, that you signed the paperwork, Doc signed the paperwork, Niscoba signed the paperwork. All the unions said this is a good step in the right direction. But yet, not in the budget. The reason, I know you can't speak for her, but I will take preference and say she didn't put in her budget because she does not care. And if she was standing right here, I'd say the same thing to her. I'm just appalled that lack of action by this administration dealing with the recruitment and retention issue on the death gamble that she's vetoed twice, and not putting HALT reform, not HALT repeal, HALT reform to protect the corrections officers and the civilian employees that are working inside that correctional facility and are under assault each and every day. And it's also, that reform would also help protect the incarcerated individuals. Let's make that clear too, because the incarcerated individual on incarcerated individual assaults are skyrocketing, just like the incarcerated individual on staff assaults. So maybe when you talk to the governor, you could say that. And I know it's not you, but it's just, I'm just very frustrated and passionate about this issue. I'm tired of waiting around for action to happen, and it doesn't happen.
Thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for sending in that clip. Let's go to some viewer comments before we need to take a break. I have not seen any polls on how Americans interpreted the State of the Union. Did it come off as a success according to polls? I have not seen either. I know that they'll highlight when people's excitement levels went up and stress like that. I saw something about that, but I haven't seen any polling, and I'd be honest, I wouldn't trust it anyway because they're kind of in protection mode because they've been saying that the midterms are over, all over but the shouting, and then Trump did such a good job and brought, like Adam Coleman said, kind of brought back patriotism and made it a fight over patriotism, that they're nervous, and that's why you're seeing some of the hit pieces that you've been seeing this morning and that we've been talking about on this program, and that's why I wouldn't trust a poll at this point. Comment from a viewer, 3 claps for Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Good job, Phil. I agree. That's why I wanted to make sure that I play that for you before we ran out of time this morning. Comment from a different viewer, if the shallow minds prevalent in the Democrat Party could be summed up in 2 words, those would be they stink. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer, look at the footage of Omar when she was screaming at Trump. The look in her eyes was abject fear. She knows her house of cards is collapsing. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. Can you imagine what life is like in Omar's district if they celebrate her as a representative? Let's just say that it probably isn't as quaint as Market Street. No, probably not. Comment from a different viewer. Just an observation. Those 2 smug-looking losers that Phil was questioning look like a couple of blankety blanks. Oh, there we go. Thank you and they actually wrote that. That was not me changing the language. I appreciate that. Good morning, Frank, writes another viewer. So they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, but I can't even define this behavior. I agree. Oh, with the frogs too. I like you found a frog emoji. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's good publicity. I think Senator Fetterman is right. It's not a good look for his party. Now, since we went to New York, we can keep talking about the State of the Union. Lee Carter says it wasn't a pivot by the president, that it was a power play. And I thought that was a good way of putting it. He created, well, let me take a step back. The speech will enrage critics, electrify supporters, and frustrate fact checkers. But strategically, we can all see what he was doing. He reframed healthcare. He reinforced protection. He amplified economic confidence. He created visual contrast. He rallied his base. This wasn't a pivot. It was a power play. Every pun intended. And in American politics, whoever controls the narrative controls the moment. And that's exactly what we saw. And he did control the narrative. And that's why I think what we witnessed was historical in the sense from here on out, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat president, they're going to have a moment like that at the State of the Union to kind of force your hand. Do you believe in this or not? In this instance, it worked great for the president. Okay. We have to take a break. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. And we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
My mom is a veteran and she was injured in the line of duty.
I hurt my leg in a training accident when she was only 2 years old.
She had 7 different surgeries over the span of 9 years, and there were tons of complications.
I couldn't be the mom my kids needed me to be.
She missed so much.
After my last surgery, I got an infection so bad I thought it was going to kill me.
I told her she couldn't leave me yet. There was still so much she had to see. I hadn't even graduated.
I'm doing much better now. I'm an active part of my kids' lives.
She can kick a mean soccer ball.
DAV's been there for me and my family. Through thick and thin, they've had our back.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans like Sandy get the health and disability benefits they've earned so they can achieve victories great and small.
My victory is getting my life back. I may have lost my leg, but I've gained so much. I got my joy back.
We got our mom back, thanks to DAV.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
If the game will swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, Market Street recording. Let's go to some viewer comments. Rick writes in, Frank, buddy, come on. He told so many lies in the 10 minutes I watched the state of Trump. My nose grew. Nothing else to say. You make your mind up, folks. If you believe and trust this nut, you need some of his 600% discounted drugs. Time to get back to some more Epstein pressure. Things are heating up, I would say so. I see that Hillary Clinton, according to the New York Times, is going to have the Epstein deposition, and it's the last quote, or the latest, I should say, quote, stand by your man moment. The former First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State had no dealing with Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly, but is once again under pressure to answer for the actions and relationships of her husband. There you go. So yes, I would say the pressure's heating up. Comment from a different viewer. If we haven't seen polls about the president's address, it means that it was bad news for the Democrats. That's a very fair point. That's a very good point. Comment from a different viewer. Mark writes in, I think it's great that Phil Palmisano is being transparent just like Trump, and he really gets his point across. Hats off to him. I totally agree. I love the videos, and I told Phil so. And I said it wasn't just me that loves them. It's you as well. And that's why I want to play them when he sends them in. I kind of jumped the gun yesterday and played that audio from the press conference, and then they sent me the video. So I wasn't going to play that again for you. But this about the corrections officer, what a fighter for our COs. And I would say the same. Hats off to Phil. As we wrap up, well, let's talk about that real quick, just because we mentioned Phil and the corrections officer. Did you know that New York prisons are still being staffed by the National Guard? A year after the strike, State Corrections Commissioner Daniel Marticello acknowledged during a recent budget hearing that his department still has 4,600 unfilled corrections officer positions despite special recruiting campaigns and less stringent hiring requirements. As a result, there are no plans to draw down roughly 3,000 National Guards still stationed in prisons around the state. Lawmakers said during the hearing that they're weary of the extra costs associated with the ongoing shortage, which has already topped $1 billion. That's with a B. The executive budget allocates $535 million for the National Guard. That represents over 4,000 corrections officers if you converted that to CO salaries and fringe. Think of that. And the problem that I have, and I've got to mention this again, when you joined the National Guard, you did not train to be a corrections officer. They're two very different skill sets. And to have those 3,000 National Guards in there for something that was never a part of their training is just, it's despicable. Oh, hey, here's a good quote from our friend, Assemblymember Chris Friend. Albany Democrats are burning through over $1 billion while refusing to address the policy failures that caused this crisis. Again, this is Assemblyman Chris Friend. There's no plan to end the Guard deployment, no accountability for the spending, and no willingness to admit the HULL Act has made our prisons more dangerous. Thank you very much, Assemblyman Chris Friend. Now, okay, we got to take a break. Wow, some comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We can continue to talk about the State of the Union. This is our last break before we wrap up, so get your last-minute thoughts on today's topics, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Ferrari Auto Team.
The best hot cocoa?
Ask Google. The best ski resort? Ask Google.
The best Jeep dealer?
Ask Google.
We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Jeep in Elmira the highest Jeep dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Jeeps during our President's Day sales event.
Visit Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
Change the first 5 years, and you change everything. Start early and you nurture the relationships that lead to a lifetime of healthy development and well-being. Start early and you ensure every child is ready for kindergarten. Start early and you give every child, family, and community in our country the opportunity to thrive.
Good day, meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Quiet and staying relatively cool out there today. Temperatures topping off a touch above freezing. Light winds will have more sun than clouds out there. Then tonight, seasonably cool, bottoming out in the teens with clear skies. Temperatures will get a boost for us on Friday and Saturday, but temperature roller coaster. We don't stay warm. Cool again at Sunday onward with additional opportunities for some snow.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. I really can't understand how these idiots don't realize that it takes time to rebuild all the items that have been halted or delayed. Policies need to be changed before change happens. Businesses are coming back all over. It takes time. You can't build a house in a day. Trump can't redo all this overnight. It takes time, and he's working as fast as time allows. You could argue maybe a little bit faster than time allows, but sometimes at least it seems it. If they impeach Trump over Epstein, would they hate Vance just as much? Yes, they're already late. Yes, the answer is yes. They're laying the groundwork for that already, because what they'll say, and you'll see it every once in a while in an article, which will be, boy, candidate Vance, if he decides to run president, he may actually be worse than Trump. He may actually you'll start to see that, which it's hard to explain to me when you talk about Trump being the worst human, the worst president, the worst this and that, how there's someone worse than that. But yes, that will be the talking point. They did it to, who was it? DeSantis, I think, that the only thing worse than Trump would be a President DeSantis. I think that's what they said back during the primary or the announcements. So yeah, you'll start to see those headlines as 2028 nears. If it does turn out to be Vance, the only person worse than Trump may be Vance. So that's a great question, but the answer is easy. Comment from a different viewer. I'll answer the viewer's question. I'm pretty sure the poll said epic failure. Yes, that's what the media would say about it if they had the polls to release. But obviously, there's a reason why they're concerned, and the coverage shows it, because it was a successful State of the Union, very successful. Arguably, I've heard a lot of people make the argument that it was the best speech that Trump has given, and definitely the best State of the Union he has given, but one of the better speeches. This viewer says, Rick, your nose grew not as a result of the truths conveyed by President Trump, but because of the lies that the fake news have filled your head with. Thank you very much. And a comment from a different viewer. I have a friend that's a guard. He says he doesn't see the guard leaving ever. It doesn't seem it with the numbers that we just read, and thank you for that, for the insider look at it. But with the numbers that they need, that they're down with the guard, I mean, who would, with the HALT Act, who would want to take that job? We talked about it in the past. They have made it, with the overtime, the HALT Act, they've made it unbearable. Oh, wow. So many comments come in. Okay, Ken writes in, the State of the Union address highlighted the broken federal government. I listened to some of the legacy media comments saying all kinds of that made them seem unhinged. I sympathize with all voters from both sides of the aisle with polar opposite information being presented to the public by both sides, politicians and media alike. How does the average person know what is true? I try to use common sense when making decisions. The media has to be held accountable for lying to the public, or we are doomed as a nation. Thank you, Ken. Mark writes in, perhaps Hochul thinks she is saving money keeping the National Guard in prison so she doesn't have to hire 4,000 more prison workers as the Guard is already being paid. Totally ridiculous. Have a great day. You too, Mark. Have a great day as well. Okay, CO work 12-hour days, and they can't take any vacation. Yeah, we talked about that when the strike happened. Unlivable. It's ironic because they couldn't unionize in what you would think is a union, but if this were any other union, Hochul would have said there would have been laws, there would have been fines, there would have been shutting down of the organization. But because it's COs and she's in charge, it's a whole different thing, because it's unsustainable, the workload. And that we've heard the horror stories where someone will say, I had a vacation and at the last minute I told my family to go without me because they called me in for another 12-hour day, or whatever the case may be. So you're exactly right. But that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Two quick headlines. Hochul's budget director hints at rolling back the state's climate law. Interesting. From the same outlet, different timing, lawmakers won't water down or delay climate law mandates, says Stuart Cousins. Okay, well, which one was it? Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the Assemblyman for sending in that clip. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.